All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Jesse Hill, and I'm the president of Tier 3 IT Solutions. And today we're going to spend just a little bit of time talking about multi-factor authentication. And this is one of the ways that you can improve the security of, basically your entire online life, both as an individual and as a company. So if you don't know much about us yet, our purpose, our existence as an IT company is to help other businesses make the most from their technology investments. So this, what we have on here is what we call our brand commitment. I'm not going to go through it in detail, but you'll see the very last sentence, and this is why we believe we exist and what makes us unique is that we are here to help build stronger businesses. We happen to do that through technology and planning and strategy and all those things, but that's a different discussion for a different day. So today we're going to talk about, first of all, why passwords aren't enough anymore, what is multi-factor, some best practices around it, and then how to start putting those in place within your organization. I've got Dario working with me here today, so if you have any questions, feel free to put them in chat, and he'll do his best to either get you an answer back or he'll flag me so that I can answer them for you either as we go or at the end of the session today. So first of all, why passwords aren't enough anymore? So you see some things down here. The big one is that passwords are the root cause for over 80% of breaches or cyber incidents. Now, the reason that this has, become such a big problem is that many people have really poor password hygiene, meaning the passwords that they use aren't long enough or complex enough. They often reuse the same password across multiple sites and services. And, they tend to share passwords. And so even though a password is meant to be, private and personal, a lot of people have admitted that if asked, they openly share that. And this becomes a problem because we all get those phishing emails, and we all, at some point have probably ended up on a website that has been compromised. And basically, the whole purpose of both of those, attacks is to collect usernames and passwords. And hackers do this because they know that if, in general terms, people, have the password hygiene that we talked about, if they get one password for someone's username, they can likely reuse that across multiple sites. And so they're going to take that and they're going to try to get into your PayPal or your bank or your iCloud or any of those other types of services that are commonly used. So what is multi-factor authentication? And why, and we'll talk about why it's important. I mean, ultimately what it comes down to is that multi-factor authentication is a third, piece of information that needs to be provided to prove your identity. So when we think about logging into a traditional web page, when we go, it asks for a username and a password. And if we, don't have multi-factor authentication, that's all it takes to get in. If we do have multi-factor authentication, the web page will then, after we hit login, will pop up and it'll say something like, please enter, the code from your authenticator app or from the, PIN number that was just texted to you. And the reason that this helps to improve your security beyond, just a username and password, the way that I guess we describe it in the industry is we say a username and password is something a third-party PIN comes from something you have. And so you'll see a couple of different things listed on here, things like USB tokens, a PIN that came over text, a fingerprint. And the idea, of course, like I said, is that if somebody were to compromise your username and password for a web page, when they try to log into it, it'll pop up and it'll ask them to enter that PIN number that you just received on your cell phone. that criminal is then likely to, abandon and go to the next person on their list, right? They always follow the path of least resistance. Best practices for MFA, for multi-factor authentication. First of all, what we call take a holistic approach. This means every single site and service and software that allows or supports multi-factor authentication, you should enable it. So this means, websites, and even if it seems, like maybe not a super valuable or super important website, just take a couple minutes, turn them on. If you're connecting remotely, from your home into the office network, you should have two-factor turned on your VPN connections. Even when you think about your phone, making sure that your login, that the screen and everything is locked and requires a passcode to get into that, or a fingerprint authentication or something like that. The second key to success is, for a business to provide the option or a variety of authentication mechanisms. So, it's kind of wordy, but what we've run into when we're trying to help businesses roll this out is we've found out that not everybody wants to download an app. Some people want to use a text message. Now, when you get into the whole tech world, there will be people who have different opinions about using SMS text messages for two-factor, and those who think you shouldn't. But regardless, having multi-factor turned on, even if we would prefer not to do it by text message, is still better than not having two-factor authentication turned on. Using the principle of least privilege. So this is just kind of acknowledging that every single user in your network is given a certain amount of permissions and privilege and access to do things. It might be what information they're able to see. It might be the ability to install software. It might be, the option to export information or not export information out of certain programs. And the idea with the principle of least privilege is to look at, a particular employee or a job, a position, and really say, what is the bare minimum level of access that they need in order to do that job, and to provide only that level. So if they're here, to do that job, and their permission level is up here, well, we need to restrict it a little bit more, so that, if an account were to become compromised, you're only worried about the level that they've been given, not what they have access to that they shouldn't have had. So this one takes a little bit of planning and a little bit of, kind of restructuring sometimes to make sure that people, don't get that extra access that they shouldn't have. Supporting your employees. Again, I mentioned earlier, rolling out multi-factor authentication, it is a change. If people don't understand why it's important, and really how easy it can be once it's set up, you're likely to get some pushback and some resistance. And we've seen that across our client base. So what we've learned is that it's a really good idea to, first of all, let people know that this is an opportunity to improve, the security for the organization, but also for, the employees. Let them know that there's going to be, guides or training or resources or whatever kinds of systems you're going to put in place, to help them. And then make sure that they know as much as possible in advance when the change is going to be happening, so that they're not caught off guard with that. Having somebody on your team who's the deployment champion or product champion will help you with this as well. And then reviewing and updating. We use this, I guess, this little phrase, and we say, cybersecurity is a journey, not a destination. So just because you set up multi-factor authentication on your top 5 services or websites or software packages today doesn't mean that a year from now you're still, at the level of security that you think you should be, because there's going to be changes, there's going to be improvements, there's going to be different opportunities and systems. As an example, you might start leveraging more of a single sign-on or a federated, login type of tool. The other thing is that websites and services that don't support multi-factor authentication today might support it a year from now. So you constantly just have to be going back and looking at them and making sure that you are keeping your security posture, up to the standards of the time. Pretty quick topic today. I hope it was helpful. Of course, we're here to help you. So if you want to learn more, you can reach out to us with any of the, mentions that we have at the bottom here.